Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Ask Me Anything session. I'm Staff Sergeant Mary Lou Schwint. I joined you last month, and I'm really excited to be back again today. I know that we were promoting that Constable Lisa Lawrence would be joining me, but her schedule changed actually today, and fortunately, I've got Constable Simone Rosink in with me today. So I'll do a little introduction about myself, and I'm going to let Simone talk about introduce herself, and obviously, like every other AMA, please feel free to put your questions in the chat and I will get to them as quickly as I can. And then we're also going to discuss, a few of the areas of assessment today that we'd like to focus on. But for those of you that haven't met me before at all, whether it's online or in person, I've been with the OPP for about 17 years now. I've been in recruitment for the last few years. Been really fortunate to see a lot of great changes that we've made in recruitment. I've had the privilege of being involved in hiring a lot of officers, which I absolutely love. I just really feel privileged to actually be in this position and to interact with so many people that want to be police officers. This is a really exciting time, obviously 50 years of women in policing in 2024. And we are looking to hire, and we're looking to hire a lot of officers the next few years. So it's a great time to apply. I'm going to stop talking for a second, though, and just let Simone introduce herself, just a little bit about where you've been. Simone's relatively new still with us, which is fantastic. It's great to get that perspective as well. So welcome, Simone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Like Steph said, my name is Constable Simone Rosink, and currently I work out of the Wellington County Detachment. However, I started in Haldimand County just because that's where I got placed when I was hired. And as some of you may know, once you do your time, you have the option of doing a lateral transfer. So I was able to do that. So now I'm back in my own hometown, policing my own community, which is Wellington County. So I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. And one of the things, I'm sorry that the lighting keeps going here. I'm just going to try to adjust this. One of the things about policing as a career, and that we always talk about, is that every day is different. And I think Simone got a big lesson in that today when I saw her out in the detachment, in the constable area with her shift, and I realized that I was losing my co-host for today. Well, and I know Simone from years ago, so I asked her if she would join me. So I don't know if you've ever done an AMA session or anything before. So literally probably not what you woke up thinking you're going to do today. No. But actually, I really have a lot of admiration for Simone. I had the privilege of meeting her about 5 or 6 years ago before you got on. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that struggle with, is this the right decision? Or, there might be some obstacles that you're facing in your application process or getting on, or maybe you've tried before and you've you haven't been successful. I think we've both been there, so we understand it. Simone, what did you find challenging about the application process or getting on with policing?
I think we really focus on having needing everything, all the areas assessment, whereas if you lack in one, I feel like you should still pursue it and give it your all, because that's essentially what I did. I was struggling in some of the testing portions, and I actually reached out to Mary Lou here, who kind of encouraged me to go ahead and do it anyways, and honestly that's why I'm here today. So,
and I think that we don't realize at the time that we're out meeting people. We met at a gym, actually, and we've kind of come full circle. We met at a gym before Simone got on. And now that she's been on, she's back in the community. We're back at CrossFit working out together on Saturday mornings, which is fantastic. And it's so much fun to see. So it's incredible. If you're in the community and you know a police officer, or you have connection with one, reach out to them and talk to them, because hopefully you can get some insight or some motivation or something, or just a different perspective on your application. There's a lot of misconceptions, I think, out there with applying and what you need to do. We talk a lot about our areas of assessments at the information sessions. They're on our websites. But yeah, not everyone's going to be perfect in every single area. I know myself, to get on, I was worried about the fitness component and passing it. So I know I got involved with got hired a personal trainer, and I really started working on that cardio portion so that I could make sure I hit that level 7. But other people I know, maybe you struggle with the academic portions, that you're concerned about that. So you want to make sure that you work on those areas, and whether you take some extra schooling or certificates or something. But just be aware that we may not be perfect in every area, but we're looking at the entire package, what you're bringing to the table. We got a question here for Simone. That's awesome. What is your favorite part of the job, and what do you find most challenging?
It's a tough one right off the start. I think my favorite part of the job is like the team environment. So you come in and work with obviously a group of people every day. You're doing calls together. You have each other's back. I don't know. I come from a sporting background, so I'm used to that team environment. So that's definitely attracted me to the job, as well as every day is so different. Like Mary said earlier, I didn't know I was coming in today and going on Facebook Live. I expected to go out and maybe write some tickets and do calls for service. And that's kind of the unique thing about policing is you really never know what you're going to be doing today. And then what was the second part? What's the most challenging?
Most challenging.
Most challenging. Well, it's a tough one. Let me think. What's the most challenging?
I know myself for most challenging is when I was being asked to do something that I knew was a weakness of mine. Like when I was asked to be a media officer, like talking in front of a camera, that was not something I was interested in doing or fielding questions. And so putting myself out there and having that confidence. But I also realized, now that I've done it, and there's been other areas that those situations where I'm most uncomfortable in are actually the situations where I'm going to show the greatest development and I'm going to learn the most from. So I actually appreciate those challenging situations.
Yeah.
That's what I found.
Yeah, I would like to go off of that. I think one of the challenging part is being confident in yourself. Like you're going to go into like heated calls, heated situations, and you might not 100% know if you're telling them the right advice or the right answer, but just kind of staying true to your word. And if you need to follow up with them later on, you can always follow up with a phone call. So I think, I guess having that sense of confidence can be challenging at times, but you learn how to work with that the more experience you have.
I love that actually. Yeah, because we can't foresee every call that you go to. You can't map it out ahead of time how it's going to go. So having the confidence in yourself and your platoon mates that you're going to be able to coordinate through it. So when you talked about that team environment, it's so important that you have those relationships with your shift mates.
Yeah,
because you're counting on them.
Oh, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Any advice for people applying from outside your province? Well, I can tell you that COVID was a benefit to you because prior to COVID, of course, our testing and our interviews were all in person. And now, because we had to adapt during COVID, we've essentially moved to a virtual online application system. So as far as advice, basically just like any other candidate, go on, check out our application portal, what the requirements are. You're going to apply through the web-based portal. If you're successful, the fitness portion, obviously it's a video as well. You're submitting of your level 7 shuttle run. And then the interviews are all done virtually as well. So I think have good internet connection. That would be a really good advice as far as that goes. And just, it's, even the background investigation, the psych testing is all done virtually. So really applying from outside the province just got a lot easier for all of you. How do I prepare for the OACP? Well, actually, with the OPP, you don't have to have the OACP certificate. That's not part of our process. We dropped that, I think it was 2018, 2019. I forget exactly which year it was now, but that ATS certificate, you don't need it. We do testing throughout our process that covers all of that off, but you don't need it to apply. If you do have it, please submit it for sure. And we can use it for portions of your testing, but you don't need that. So it's a little bit of a benefit there. Another question. So talking about postings, I know Simone brought up, Haldeman, she was initially placed and then she, a few years later, transferred back to her home location. As far as posting locations go, at the time of application, we have you put in your top 6 postings. And then throughout it, we will talk to you. The recruiter at the interview, your background investigator, will all have really fulsome conversations about why you picked those locations and the reasons behind it, because we understand there's a lot of factors and we want to know those factors so that we can best place you. When it comes time to placing candidates, we look at all that reasoning, we look at what we have. Obviously, we're a provincial organization. We need people across the province, but we also recognize that, you have families, you have childcare needs, you might have medical needs. But the more information we get about why you've chosen specific postings, the more helpful it is to us. So it may be that you're military, so you want to stay in the reserves, or you still want to keep that connection, so you want to be by a military base. Well, guess what? I'm going to Google and see where the military bases are. And if I can't get you your first choice, maybe I can still, cover off that need. Or perhaps your spouse is a nurse or a doctor and needs a hospital nearby to work in. So we're going to look at the centers that have hospitals, that sort of thing. But for the majority of our candidates, they are getting one of their top 6 postings. And you're told you're posting at your time of job offer. So hopefully that helps. Not everybody goes northwest, northeast, but I can tell you, and Simone and I were talking about this ahead of time, neither one of us did a duration posting, and both of us regret it. The stories and the experiences the officers have, the training that you get when you go to Northwest or when you do a duration is second to none. You get a lot more courses a lot quicker. You're going to get exposed to different situations. Things like the ATV course, the snowmobile course, those types of courses that down south we're not getting quite as often because we don't need them quite as much. Officers up there are getting it. So there's a lot of benefits to those postings. Make sure you're following us on social media. Sergeant Carrie Schmidt did a recent tour up the Northwest, has got some fantastic content, some pictures, and a little bit about the experiences up there. It's a different world, I think. And I think it's really something you should look at if you're at all interested. Make sure you reach out to us. We do have information sessions based on the Northwest region specifically at times. So those will be advertised on our careers page as well. And they're really worthwhile attending. How much time will it take to process the application? So generally, I would say most people are getting through the application process within 3 to 4 months. So when you apply, you need to be ready to do that level 7 on your shuttle run, because that's going to be the first step. So don't even apply until you're ready to hit that level 7. That's something that is mandatory. But once you hit that level 7, it's going to move quite quickly to the interview stage. And if you hit background, that's a 2-week turnaround. Typically, the background investigator has with your file. So you want to be very responsive to everything they need. They're going to be asking you to set up interviews and get your financial papers. You'll be getting your medicals and vision, all that stuff. So it does move quite quickly then. And we do ask that you are responsive to your your background investigator, because they're on a timeline as well. Next question here I've got, as a peace officer, background, 2-year diploma of criminal justice, is there any more experience that I need to gain before applying? So it's hard to answer that. It sounds like you've got a really great start, but we do have the 10 areas of assessment. So take a look at your driving. If you're comfortable with your driving, you can't have more than 6 demerit points to apply. Hopefully you've got a little bit of community service in there. I know that's something that, depending on where we are in our life, sometimes you've got a lot of time for it, but people with maybe multiple jobs, going to school, kids or that, it can get a little bit harder to get involved in your community, but that's something you want to look at. As far as that is, it's hard, Carlo, for me to kind of specifically say you've got enough, but it sure sounds like you've got an amazing experience. So if you look at those other areas and you think, hey, yeah, I think I'm covered here, then go ahead, submit that application. We'd love to see it. What is the most popular shift rotation used by the OPP? I'm going to let Simone explain the shift rotations.
So we work a 5-4 rotation, which sounds very confusing at first, but you get really used to it, and it's quite nice because you do have 5 days off at a time, which is kind of like a mini vacation if you're used to working a Monday to Friday job. But right now, for example, I just started my first day shift of a 5-block rotation. So I work 2 days, 3 nights, and then I'm going to have 4 days off. And then I'm back in for 3 days, 2 nights, and then I'm going to have 5 off. And then I come back in for 4. So that's kind of where it gets confusing. But essentially, you get 2 weekends off in a row. And then the first weekend you work, it's straight nights. And the second weekend you work, it's straight days.
So I'm going to call you out here. I think Simone does a fantastic job with the shift rotations. And I'll say that because I have seen her at the gym after a night shift, and she's at the gym by 11:30. I'm curious, what works for you coming off night shifts? What are some tips that you would say?
I usually try to not sleep past like 11 because I want to get back into like your daytime rotation so you can enjoy most of your days off, because you don't want to, at least what I found, if I sleep till 3 or 4 o'clock and now I've wasted that day off and now I can't fall asleep on my normal 10 o'clock time and now I've wasted a second day off. So, and having a gym schedule at 11:30, 12 o'clock is great because it just forces you to get up and go.
Let's talk about that for a second. Mental health and physical health is a huge part of being a police officer and being successful. And we've recognized, especially the last few years, how important it is that people in this job are looking after themselves. And I can attest that, this camera is silly, that you've sustained that throughout your career. You came into the job very fit, incredibly strong. We would used to back squat together. I've stopped doing that because there's just no way that I can compete with that. So, but I could do more burpees maybe in a minute. I'm
probably,
yeah. So we all have different strengths. But you've done a great job at that. And we really want to stress to people looking at applying to be a police officer and entering this profession. We have fitness logs that we ask you to fill out as part of the application process, and you're required to maintain those throughout the process. I know, and I've said this before, they're not fun. No one likes doing them, but they're important. And I want everyone knowing that we do look at those, and it's not just for how much running you're doing. That's very important. But it's also, there's that mental health column. I forget what's called right now, but basically we're looking at stress management. That's what we're looking at. Is we want to make sure you're coming into this career and you're recognizing that you've got an awareness about the importance of stress management, and you've got some techniques and tools that you're using already in order to manage your stress. Because you are going to be faced with situations, and you're going to have shifts that they're not going to leave you in the best frame of mind. And we want to make sure you've got that support system, where you've got those tools and resources outside of work to turn to that will help you get through that. Because we want you to have not only a healthy career, but we want you to have a healthy and long retirement. So really want to make sure we're setting people up for success. And the OPP is really promoting that with its own members, but also with the members coming on. So make sure when you're looking at those fitness logs that you really take a moment and stop and go, okay, why are they asking this? And what's the importance? Because it is important that you do that. What do you do for stress management?
Well, the gym probably. But I really enjoy like cooking and baking. So I try to make a point of that. I'm probably the favorite platoon member because I bring my baked goods in here. But
are those your muffins in there this morning? Okay.
But again, that's what comes all down to like building rapport with your platoon and stuff. And quite honestly, like we're a pretty close-knit platoon where we go out and have drinks after shift if it was a busy one or we had a FADO or whatever the case is, and we kind of debrief that way.
I love that. That's why your shift mates are so important.
Yeah.
And having those relationships. So jump back to a couple questions here. Do you get your schedule a year in advance? You can basically, figure out as soon as you know what shift you're on, you can just plug it in because you stay on that shift. If they're going to change your shift, they have to give you, I think, minimum 6 weeks. I gotta look at the agreement, but you do get a little bit of a heads up there, and that's usually done in consultation. There's probably a reason for it happening, and they're going to have discussions with you on that. What else is needed in terms of physical other than the shuttle run level 7? So the prep test is the mandatory component at OPC. So that prep test is your level 7 shuttle. And it's also like an obstacle course where you're going up over the wall, you're doing a dummy drag, a push-pull machine. So that's taking some upper body strength and some lower body strength to be successful in that. Online, we've got links to it on the OPP Careers website that you can actually see videos or the setup for that. We also really promote the PIN testing, and that's more of a health test really, but you should be testing for that because you will be tested at the Provincial Police Academy on it. 75% is a passed, and it is a age and gender-based test. So the scoring matrix for it can also be found through a link on our OPP Careers website. It involves a 2.4 kilometer run. So that you'll either do that run or you'll do the shuttle run as a testing. And then there's a push-ups component, core endurance component, and then there's a flexibility one. That's the one I always lose my marks on. Yeah. So we do test on that. And like I said, 75% is a pass. So on your fitness logs again, we are looking for you to be testing on that, say every 3 weeks or so, once a month. I'd like to see a score on that. It is a test that as you get older, the scores get easier to achieve. So every decade is a little bit easier, which is great. But take a look at that because we will be asking you questions. It's good to be familiar with it. I have small kids and I coach high school hockey in the community. I'm fearful that I wouldn't be back in my town. Am I able to disclose these concerns upon my application? Absolutely, Jess. And that's something that you're going to talk about with your recruiter, your background investigator. I absolutely love that you're coaching high school hockey. That's fantastic. You've got small kids. You've got a very busy life, and we're gonna work with you on that for sure. So you'll have that opportunity at your interview, and if you can move to background, to talk about that for sure. What worked for you to reach level 7 on the shuttle? So we were talking about this before either. Simone actually really likes the shuttle, she tells me. I always hated it until I actually hit it. I got that level 7. I realized I think a lot of it's mental, but the biggest thing that I've been told by fitness professionals on it is consistency. So consistency in your running. It is not something, especially if you struggle with running, that you can hit level 7 once and then just say, okay, I'm good now. I'm going to apply. I'm not going to run again until they make me test. You need to sustain it. So I would think you're going to be running 3 to 4 days a week. If you're not doing any running at all, please work up to that. Don't just start going out long distances. You're going to end up with shin splints or pulled hamstrings, and you're going to get pretty discouraged. But consider maybe getting a running coach or talking to a physical fitness trainer or something online. There's lots of guides for running and some tips for running. One of the things that we've really mentioned before, and we've been hosting some women's symposiums and we've been hosting some in-person shuttle runs, is if you're struggling, a lot of people are getting that, that level 4, level 5, and they just can't break by that. I think some of that sometimes becomes mental because you just get so frustrated. I would suggest warm up and then run the shuttle or have the shuttle run going, but don't start until about a level 5.5 and jump in at 5.5 and get that feeling. Go up to 7, 7.5. Get a feeling for what that's like. And then maybe wait a few days and go back and try doing it from the beginning. Because I think that might take away that mental block that, hey, I can't do this. Well, actually, yeah, you can, because now you know what it feels like. So that's helped. I also think that things like interval training and hill training is really good. But it has to be consistent. It has to be, you can't just take a week or 2 off and think you're going to be okay. You've got to stay consistent with it. Get good running shoes, get good music, and get a good friend to run with.
I was gonna say, buddy really helps too to push you through, like someone that is either like a good runner or that it can complete it. Run with them because they can kind of be like your pacer as well. Because I think that's where a lot of people, they start off way too quick and then they exhaust themselves in the beginning and don't have anything left for when it comes down to stage 6 or 7.
Yeah, that's excellent. And actually, if you need a buddy, we do have some shuttle runs coming up. We're getting our recruiters across the province to put some of these dates on the website, so stay tuned. But right now, I know there's one coming up August 21st in Peary Sound. So if you're in that area, check out the website. I believe there's a sign up or just information on it there. And then August 27th at West Region headquarters, just by London, there's another session, a mentoring session there. So that information's online as well. And I know Sergeant Kerry Schmidt's been doing a bunch across HSD. He was doing them across Northwest Region. I think a couple of weeks ago, he was doing it in full uniform with his hat on and he hit level 7. So pretty inspirational. He's got nonstop energy, but he's constantly adding more dates. So stay tuned if you're looking for a place to do it in person. It's a fantastic environment to do it in.
Yeah. And even if you you don't want to go because you're like, oh, I can't get to 7, I still recommend going because you can maybe meet other people that live around the area that you can kind of buddy up with and train together to do it. Because to me, I'd rather train with someone than by myself. And I'm sure lots of people are like that.
It's true. Actually, you talk about motivation.
Yeah.
You need someone like Simone in your life, because I can tell you back in May, we were doing a CrossFit class in the morning, a Saturday morning, and she mentioned that there was the what was it called again?
Tour de force
cycling ride. So in honor of fallen officers was taking place. And Simone asked me if I was doing it because I just bought this new road bike that I love to brag about. And I hadn't signed up for it. I had every excuse in the world not to sign up for it, but she let me know I should. So I actually went down with Simone and we did it. Thunder, lightning, rain. It was quite the day. It was 86 kilometers, I think. I was pretty proud of myself for doing it on my road bike. Simone did it on her mountain bike. So I don't know, but anyone that cycles out there, I think you'll appreciate, like, her and her sister were just incredible to fight through that. So, but you need someone, like, totally inspirational. I wouldn't have done it if Simone hadn't pushed me. So you need people like that in your life to kind of give you that little push and that encouragement. So 100%. I'm just going to go through some questions here. I know they're stacking up. Is it all in person or do we have to upload the clips? I think that's to do maybe with the shuttle run. You can, so if you haven't done one in person, if you've applied, we'll send you instructions on how to record your shuttle run and submit it to us. So if you do them in person, that certificate that you get is good for 30 days. You submit it with your application and then you can just skip that video part of the process. Does OPP prioritize Northwest Region detachment application or it takes normal as other detachments? We are processing them all as they come in as quickly as we can. So there's not usually any sort of wait for people. We are processing quite quickly. I think it's fair to say whether you're Northwest Region or throughout the province, your time's going to be around 3 months or so from start to finish on average. Are gyms located at each detachments or some detachments for members? More gyms, less stress. Yay. I agree. Not all detachments have them. Oh, really? I think, I can't speak for across the province. Majority, I would say would. Yeah. And then there's a lot of detachments where members have got together again and maybe wanted different equipment. So they've chipped in and done that as well. So there's usually, depending wherever you are, there's usually an option, I would say for sure. Do recruiters offer one-to-one calls or meetings with interested applicants? Our recruiters are really busy trying to process interviews, hit these recruitment events. So for the most part, we don't do like the one-to-one mentoring sessions. What we try to do is these outreach sessions. We have a uniform recruitment at opp.ca mailbox. If you've got questions specifically, you can email a recruiter. And if it's something that's more isn't just like a general question that you maybe need a little bit of one-to-one, we'll give you a call and go through it. And then we do like the in-person information sessions. We do those virtually and we do in person. So I know there's one coming up at GHQ up in Aurelia on Monday. I think right now it's almost sold out, but if you're in that area interested, make sure you get online today and sign up for it. And other than that, just stay tuned because Sergeant Vinnie Hicks pretty much hosts them monthly up there. Does a fantastic job. But usually through all those avenues, we can get your questions answered. But like I said, if you have something specific and you need that contact, reach out to us through email and we'll get in touch with you. Is there a backlog in human resources for civilian applicants? I don't have any knowledge of the civilian applicant process. We just cover off uniform. So sorry, I can't help you with that one. Someone else is mentioning that playing sports has similar cardio requirements. I completely agree. And when it comes to fitness, doing what you love, I think you're going to commit yourself and you're going to be more apt to do it too. Yeah. So, but in saying that running, if you're not a runner, you can play all the hockey in the world or all the lacrosse or baseball in the world. You got to get out there and run. And that's what we're going to have to see in your logs. What happens during the orientation and first 10 days of the PPA? Do you have memory of that? Or is it all kind of foggy?
I think we just kind of went over some like basic stuff that we were going to see at OBC. So like, again, we ran the shuttle. We did a little bit of like firearms. Yeah. We covered a couple like basic case law and our HTA, so your highway traffic stuff. I think it was just more of an introduction on like the stuff you're learning at OBC and getting you comfortable and so you're not going in blind.
Exactly. Yeah.
What I remember correctly.
Yeah. You'll have presentations from the Healthy Workplace team.
Yes.
You'll have OPPA come in, kind of go over benefits and pensions and explain some of that stuff that you probably won't remember because it's just almost information overload. But they'll give you those resources and those points of contact. You'll get your kit. That's always like Christmas,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
You get all your kit. So, and then you meet all the other recruits that you're going to be spending the next 30 weeks with or so.
3, 4, 5 months. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 months or so. That time, PPA, OPC, I think at the beginning of it, I know I felt like it was going to be forever. It goes, all of a sudden you're in it, and then it's gone.
Quick. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a really busy time. You want to make sure that you're mentally prepared for it and that your family is aware that you are going to be busy, and you'll be home weekends, but you'll be tired, and hopefully they understand that.
Yeah, for sure.
Out of province applicants, how much can be done virtually? So basically, I think I covered that. Basically, everything is online. The thing you will have to do is fingerprints. You'll get instructions for doing that somewhere to a local detachment near you and the process for it. But everything else is done virtually. This question asked if you submit your application, if there's something missing, will you be told? Our application coordinator is fantastic. She's reviewing these daily, and if you're missing something, she will try to she will communicate that to you so that you can hopefully fill in the blanks there. What's considered overtime in the 5-4 rotation? So they are 12-hour shifts. I don't know if we mentioned that. They are 12-hour shifts. So anything past your 12 hours is considered overtime. And then, we covered off. It's 2 weekends you work a month, 2 weekends you're off a month. What type of interviews after passing the shuttle run test? So preparing for an interview, my biggest recommendation is be comfortable talking about yourself. Do you remember your interview?
Yeah, it was like a conversation. That's what I felt like. I was super nervous going in, and I had done a lot of like networking, and it felt like a conversation, honestly. Like I had a great experience.
That's so good to hear. Yeah. I think you have to remember, we want you to succeed.
Yeah.
Like we're on your side here. We're not looking to trip you up. We want you to succeed. Communication is such a huge part of this job. Like Simone's got all this gear on her, all this use of force, the radio. The biggest tool though that she's got and that we all have is that ability to talk and communicate, right? Yeah. So your interview, you're going to be nervous. We understand that. And I always say that, like, I get nervous when I'm going in for interviews. We get nervous when we're about to log on for one of these things. I think Simone was like, what am I doing today? Nerves are part of it, but you've got to be able to work through those nerves. And if it helps at all, just know that we're behind you. We want you to be successful. You're going to have to be comfortable talking about maybe uncomfortable decisions you made in your life. So that most of us don't have that perfect career. No. We know there's weaknesses, or we know there's going to be areas that, aren't shining in our background. And while you might hope that we don't bring them up, those are definitely the areas that we're going to bring out. We're going to want to talk about it. And really, we're looking, if you've made mistakes, and we all have, we're looking that you've grown from them, that you've developed, that you recognize, hey, this is maybe the wrong path I was going, and this is how I've corrected, and this is what I'm doing now. So it's acknowledging and taking accountability for for those mistakes. If there's something that you're uncomfortable and you're worried that we're going to find out about it, be upfront about it, because I can guarantee you we are going to find out about it. That is our job. And if we're asking you about something, we probably know the answer already. It's like my child, when she's done something and I know she's done it, if I'm asking you, like, just come clean and take ownership for it. That goes a long way. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of applications where I think people unfortunately haven't been upfront with us, hoping we wouldn't find out. We find out, and then it's not the action itself that removes them from the process. It's like that dishonesty or that the lack of integrity for sharing it with us or trying to hide it from us. So be comfortable talking about yourself. We outline the areas of assessment. We are going to cover off all those areas. There's going to be some competency-based questions, and one of the most common models out there to answer those competency-based questions is that SARA model. So you explain your situation, what action you took, what your intent was, and what the result was. That kind of information, studying for it, that's online. Practice with someone. I used to sell cars, and did you know that about me?
Yeah.
I started selling cars right out of university, and I didn't know what a 4-cylinder engine, what that even meant, or a 6-cylinder engine. But I grew up on a farm. I didn't know this stuff. So the most uncomfortable situation I could be in was having to do a walk around of a vehicle in front of my fellow salespeople, because they know what I'm supposed to demonstrate in that vehicle and speak about, and I had to do it in front of them. But by putting myself in that situation and doing that, even though I wasn't comfortable, when it came time to demonstrate the car in front of a potential buyer, that felt like a lot easier, because I'd already done it in front of a really tough crowd. So practice doing interviews in front of someone that you really respect, or that knows what you should be doing, and you're going to find that you really grow and develop from that. That's my piece of advice there. Preparing for psychological testing, honestly, you can't really prepare. Don't overthink it. People try to overthink that. I think that's where they kind of get tripped up. Go into it, get a good night's sleep, make sure you eat, make sure you feel fresh, you've got good internet connection, no disruptions. We have a wonderful team. Our psych team is fantastic. But yeah, preparing for it, there's really nothing you can do to prepare for that. What's the work culture like?
I guess I touched a little bit on it earlier. And I've been in 2 different attachments now, and I would say it's quite similar for both. You do work with the same people on the platoon, so it's not like you rotate people. You sometimes work with different people in a certain zone. But like I said earlier, it's a lot of team based. So you've got to have each other's back. You help pick up calls. You go to calls together. I know what this platoon does, barbecues for at nighttime if it's a little bit slower. Celebrate birthdays. It's essentially an extended family.
I love that. I miss those days of
So
the bonding in the middle of the night, because you got to stay awake. The jokes just get stupid.
Yes.
But those are the things that you remember. That frontline experience, your shifts, your rotations, it's just invaluable. It's such a special time. So I can appreciate that. I kind of miss that. I want to know what day the barbecues are, because I'm showing up. Question about, does the OPP operate differently based on whether the detachment is near or in cities? So really, our policing across the province, it looks different depending on where you are. So if you don't like doing traffic, you probably don't want to work HSD area for the most part, because that's going to be a lot of traffic. If you like small town policing, get out your map and start looking at what communities we police that kind of have those types of calls for service. Most detachments will have reports online that you can access that speaks to their call volumes or their types of calls for service. So that's something you might want to research, that instead of, when you're choosing your detachments, instead of looking, okay, I live here, I'm going to draw a circle radius around it for the 6 closest detachments, do some research into it. Make sure that type of policing is what you're looking for. I think the beauty about the OPP, though, is that you get to try out so many avenues. You have a 30-year career. You might find at the beginning of the career that, hey, I love traffic. I want to do nothing but traffic. And then all of a sudden, 7 or 8 years in, you're like, I've had enough of traffic. I want to go a different route. Guess what? You can do that with the OPP. You can transfer within the province and get that different experience. So it's really an incredible career that way. And you don't know, the biggest advice I try to give recruits coming in is, don't have a preconceived plan of where you think your career is going to go, because you might be shutting the door on something. And if your supervisors are coming to you and offering you courses, take the course, right? Don't turn down a course, because you never know what might actually grab you and grab your interest, and what skills you have that you haven't discovered yet. I'm just going to scroll up here. Is there a specialty you'd really like to try at some point in your career? Where do you want to go?
Oh, that's a good question. I always thought that I wanted to go like more like crime route, like detective and stuff, and I'm still piques my interest. But I would also truthfully love to get into recruiting or maybe like the emergency response team where you continue working in that team environment, and every day is very different because the crime route it's a lot of like warrant writing and things like that, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet. But maybe I'll change my mind in 5 years.
And that's the beauty of it. You can,
Yeah.
right? Like, I know myself that I still, at some point, I love what I'm doing right now. And there's a lot of things I still want to do in this unit, but I would love to work at some point down at OPC with the new recruits from all the different services. I'd love to see that environment and that and get involved there. I think it's a really exciting place to be and a fantastic opportunity. But right now I'm pretty happy where I am, and we're quite busy. We've got a lot going on in recruitment. After applying to different municipalities and being rejected, I'm at a crossroads. What are applicants supposed to do to improve chances when we don't give out reasons why you're declined. No service does. What I suggest there is if you're being declined, I would get out those areas of assessment that we have and sit down with a friend, a trusted friend, someone who's going to be critical with you, and look at the different areas and see maybe where you might be missing something, or where maybe a lifestyle or behavior might be impeding your application, perhaps. Maybe it's an education thing. I don't know, but have someone sit down there and really critically evaluate that with you. If you're getting, a decline from several different services at the same stage, chances are that's, the services talk. So we do exchange information. So chances are, that decline might follow you. You might want to take a little bit of a step back from applying and have that honest conversation with somebody to try to figure out maybe where you can improve. Because I can tell you, like, it is discouraging when you get declined. Generally, you have to wait for 1 year before you can reapply. One of the things that I find discouraging, though, is when someone reapplies after a year and I can look at the application and there's really nothing changed. To me, you haven't really grown or developed. You haven't taken that time and that opportunity to improve yourself. So you're already behind the 8 ball going into it. So if you have been declined and you've been deferred for a year, I really think have that honest conversation with someone you trust and look at those areas and see, hey, where can I improve? And hopefully you get a different result the next time. As an auxiliary member, is there any extra benefit to be a constable process? The auxiliary members, we love them.
Yeah.
Were you have auxiliary or no?
No.
I can't remember. We have fantastic auxiliary officers across the province. As an invaluable program that we have. Check that out online if you've got any questions on it. But basically, some of the testing, like the medical, vision, and hearing, those assessments are the same. So depending on your time frame for going through auxiliary and going through a regular recruit stream, those might still be, they may still work. You will still have to do an interview with the recruiter and a background. Again, depending on when the background took place before and what we need now, we may be able to do like a bit of a reduced one. But for the most part, you're going to go through the whole process again. The psych testing, if it's within a year, some of those results can be used, but there might be an additional test or two that you have to do as a regular stream. But that experience as an auxiliary member will really benefit you in
huge.
Yeah. I'm going to take 1 or 2 more questions here, and then we'll have to wrap it up. I know the sergeant on the road was really good about letting Simone join me today, but I'm sure he's going to be calling soon. We only turn the radio off for so long. Someone's asking about age and physical fitness. Oh, you're getting technical here. So if you're doing your PIN score and you're 29 years old on the day you're doing your PIN, score it as a 29-year-old. And once you hit 30, score it as a 30-year-old. So it shouldn't, it's probably not going to be a make or break in your application, but if you're worried about it, hold off. But yeah, score the age that you are the day you do it. How long does it take to get into the auxiliary? That process is changing slightly. So I think the processing time for them is around 4 to 6 months now. we don't do that right now in uniform recruitment, but I do have some knowledge of it, and I think they've switched to a bit of a virtual system as well. So probably about 4 to 6 months. It depends on the class schedules of that. But if you have questions on it, reach out. I know they're running a class right now, actually up in Aurelia, and their next class is in November. And there's still some openings for it from the last I'd heard. So if you're interested in it, reach out soon, and we could see if we get your application processed in time for it as well. I think we're going to wrap it up there. I just want to say this, Simone, thank you again. I am so privileged to work with her, honestly. Like it's just kind of come full circle. Like to see you at the gym, we're working out together. Now here we are. Like I grabbed you from the front office and say, hey, I need you to come online with me today. Like it just shows yeah, you're an incredible officer, an incredible person. So thank you. And for everybody out there, hopefully this session today helped you a little bit, answered some questions for you. As always, reach out to us online, uniformrecruitment@opp.ca, and follow us on Instagram, Facebook, our OPP Careers webpage. We're constantly posting new updates as to events that are happening, the shuttle runs that might be coming up in your area. They're fantastic to jump into.